Welcome to the Ask the Expert Show with local celebrity hosts Steve O and Rene. Sit back each week while Steve O and Rene educate you with live in-studio experts, such as lawyers, doctors, home improvement, and financial experts in their field. Call in and have your questions answered each week at 888-565-1470. Now, here is Steve O and Rene with today's expert in their field.
Hey, good afternoon, and welcome to another Ask the Experts. First of all, I want to tell all of our Jewish friends Happy New Year. In fact, Renee and I actually took off this morning, off our morning show. But we're at it now with Ask the Experts. We got one of our favorite, I shouldn't say that, but she is. I love, certain shows you love doing. There's certain shows that are not as interesting, but this one, Family Law, is interesting. We have Tina Lewert, attorney Tina Lewert, in studio. And if you'd like to watch the show, you can see her beautiful bright red, it's not bright, it's red top. Go to www.lewertlaw.com. Well, it's not bright red, it's red.
I don't know.
But you look beautiful as always, though.
You. So do you, as do you.
Don't butter me up. I'm just the host without Renee. The reason why Renee has not been on the last 2 or 3 weeks is we have a morning show, 3-hour morning show. Can't tell you the station, but it's called the Steve O and Rene Morning Show, and it's a lot of work, and she's back working on tomorrow's show. But anyway, today's show is about family law. And first of all, we get so many emails from people going, this is my first time listening to your show, and love the show. So today, Tina, tell us about your practice first.
I'm a divorce attorney. I'm a marital and family law attorney, however you would like to say this. Family law, I specialize in the area of family law. So what that means is that I handle cases, including divorce cases, modifications of things that were resolved in a divorce case, including things like custody, alimony, child support. We handle some domestic violence issues. We handle prenups and postnups, prepare those and negotiate those, and all the things that encompass a typical complex divorce case, equitable distribution of your assets and debts, like I said, alimony, child support, child custody, time sharing, parental responsibility.
What determines, because I always want to ask you, if you handle a domestic violence case.
What determines if
you represent them, because you said we do some domestic violence.
I say that because I guess I don't get a ton of calls about that, but I do, and I will handle them. And sometimes you have situations that arise where there's a domestic, I hate to say domestic violence, or the threat of domestic violence between spouses, and that sometimes comes up before a divorce case is filed. It sometimes comes up during a divorce proceeding, and so we'll handle those. And in a lot of the counties, they have what's called unified family court, meaning that they will assign the same judge to the divorce case and the domestic violence case, and kind of have it determined in front of the same court, the same judge. And so just sort of sometimes by nature we end up handling both of those matters, but it depends on if that's an issue. And luckily I get fewer of those than divorce.
I know. You're able to say you specialize in family law, which correct. A lot of attorneys cannot say that.
Correct.
Tell
Thank
everybody
you for
why.
Noticing. Correct. I am board certified in the area of family law. And what board certification means, that's what gives me the expert designation. So the Florida Bar has designated me as an expert in my area of practice. You can be board certified, an attorney can be board certified in other areas, including criminal law, civil trial practice, adoption. There are a bunch, and I can't delineate them all. But an attorney can be board certified, meaning that the Florida Bar says, okay, you've met certain criteria, you practiced a certain amount of time. There's a pretty rigorous exam that goes along with it that a lot of people don't pass their first time taking it, or at all. There's a certain level of trial experience you have to have, a certain number of trials in complex family law matters. And so it's really about skill and experience and knowledge, and it's for the purpose of really giving the public the opportunity to find those people, those attorneys that are truly highly skilled in their area. There are only, I think, something like 300, and that's a round number, in the state of Florida, 300 attorneys who are board certified in family law out of over 100,000 attorneys.
You didn't have to do that.
Didn't have to do it, correct.
What went into the thinking?
Well, I really believe it is a way to set yourself apart. And after you practice in a certain area of law for a period of time, you do have a high level of skill and a high level of knowledge. And even, board certification requires a high level of ethics or ethics standards as well. So, the committee that reviews the applications and approves the board certifications and grades the exams and all those things, I mean, they have very, very high standards. And so I think that's something that I'm very proud to say. It's something that I worked very hard to do, and something that I offer to my clients and say, listen, I'm an expert, and not everyone can say that. In fact, you're not allowed to say that.
Not allowed to say that.
Right, unless you are board
Florida
certified.
Bar gets real upset when you do that.
Correct.
So I think that's pretty amazing. I mean, this is not an ad for Tina Lewert. This is, what I'm saying is that you didn't have to do that. Could have still practiced family
Correct.
law, but you decided to go beyond what you had to do. So when you're thinking about hiring an attorney, and what upsets me is these people who Google something this important, especially if there's a lot of assets involved, but to Google, or you know what, just because a friend told you about someone, that doesn't mean you're going to match up. And I think that, knowing you now as long as I have, I think if you're looking for an attorney, that, what is it, you have like a small thing they can come in that you do not charge when they first sit down just to meet you?
It depends on the case. Sometimes people want to come in and they'll have, like documents they want me to review and a longer, so a lot
That's
of family
different.
law attorneys, will charge for a consultation. And so more, typically, I will charge for my time, but I will talk on the phone. I usually do like a 30-minute complimentary phone consultation, and that way people can
See if you match up together.
they can talk to me, they can hear me speak, they can find out a little bit about what I know and who I am and how I handle myself and how. So,
How long have you been practicing for?
15 years.
Okay. So you cover Palm Beach,
Correct.
Broward. Mm-hmm. Do you do anything in Dade at all?
Not much in Dade. It's. I usually will tell people, it's you're hiring an attorney. Yeah, you probably want to find somebody that practices a lot in the counties, the county where your case is, or in front of the judges where that your case is going to be in front of. I do cases all over the state. Frankly, I will.
I mean, you have one in Brevard County?
I do.
Is that right?
Yeah. And
That's
also,
amazing.
Yeah, Sarasota was another one. I got a call from there. So I will do those, but I will first tell those people, listen, I thank you. I'm honored that you like me, but you should, you probably, different counties, and there are different procedures in the different counties, and it does help for your attorney, whoever you choose, to have a rapport with the judge, and the judge to know them and trust them, and so things like that will help. So I mostly Broward and Palm Beach. That was where I practiced.
I would hate to go up against you because, I mean, you see usually the same judges, I would think, in the family courts.
Correct.
I mean,
yeah.
you know most, especially in Palm Beach.
Yeah, I mean, and absolutely, and they get to know the attorneys that are, especially the ones that practice a lot of family law or all family law, and it kind of becomes a little mini community, and they absolutely. So the thing in Palm Beach County is they rotate the judges every 2 years. So they'll have a judge in family law for 2 years. They'll rotate divisions and send him or her to civil or criminal, and then they make their way back years later to family law. And so, but eventually, practicing long enough, you kind of get to know who's around.
It's got to be a respect factor, though, when you come in, because they've seen how you work your cases.
Yeah.
So it's got to be, I would see, if I'm going, I want someone that the judges know, not on a personal level, but they know
Right.
how you practice law.
Yeah, it's
and
true.
how you
And-
take care of your clients.
Exactly, and I really that's something I pride myself on. I mean, and there are attorneys out there that, just like myself, that can say, yes, if I'm going to court, it's something that really couldn't be resolved. It's a really important issue. It's something that couldn't have been easily settled, as opposed to some attorneys have the attitude that everything should just go to court, and you're tougher if you just take everything to court, and that's doing a better thing for your client to just fight. Every case is different, every family is different, and that's not, especially when you have children together, you're always going to have children together. It's not always the best thing to run into court and fight it out, and I find that litigation creates enemies. And so, when I go into court, it's because it really had to go to court. And I think that the judges I practice in front of know that about me.
I think the client should realize that too. You're not trying to run up a big tab on them because litigation is expensive when it gets to court.
It's expensive even when you go to mediation. You can resolve things. It's still costly because attorneys charge for their time, and a lot can play in on that.
I've told you this before. I have, over my lifetime, I've spoke to so many women, not men, but women who said, you know what, I didn't have a good attorney. And I won't use the word they use, but I got it though.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have known now what I knew, back then, what I know now. And I just got screwed so bad. So it is so important, the attorney you choose.
Yeah, it is. And it's, I always tell people too, it really helps when you're going, because in family law, I mean, let's, to talk about specifically the area of family law for a minute, it's different than other types of litigation. It's very emotional. You're dealing with your children, where you're going to live, how much money you're going to have after this is over, the demise of your relationship. I mean, these are big things. I mean, major things to every person. It's some of it is just, your whole life and encompasses everything. So people are very emotionally charged. A lot of people are fueled by anger. They're fueled by fear of, what's going to happen? Am I going to be okay after this? And let me just fight, because that's what I think I'm supposed to do. And then, they find, an attorney who may support that or not, not advise them that maybe they should talk to a therapist to help them get through this. I always tell my clients, please, if I have a client that comes to me and says, I have a therapist that's helping me through, I'm like, great, thank you. Because that's a huge help, because you need to be able to put, even though you're not going to be able to put all your emotions aside, it's understandable to have those things fueling you, but you don't want it to fuel the case and your decisions in the case, and to have that, just lighting the way, because it's just going to be bad, and it's going to, it's going to maybe not result in the best thing for everyone, including your children.
You stock up on tissue.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
When you said emotional, I've actually have friends of mine who were family attorneys, and they couldn't take how they said, you know what? I made a very good living. I couldn't handle it emotionally. It was just too overwhelming.
Yeah. I have a lot of people.
You've grown a lot of thick skin.
Yeah,
then.
I've had cases against attorneys who are like, maybe handling a case for a friend of a friend, or they're kind of, and they say, God, how do you do this? I can't do this, and it takes a special person. It takes a special person. It takes a thick skin, and it's a unique area of practice. But like you said in the beginning, it never gets dull. That's for sure.
And I think one of the things that I always try to come across is there's a lot of attorneys out there that do family law. A lot of them do all different types of law. They're called boutiques, I think. But that's all you do is just strictly family law.
Correct.
And I think that, like these women I spoke to who said, I really got screwed, I wish someone like you is not going to let that happen to them, because this is all you do.
This is all I do. And I've seen, everything, and every permutation, and every, personality type, and all the things that affect a case and the way that it goes, and all that. And, it's really something that's a very, like I said, it is a specialized area of the law. It is very intricate, and there's a lot to, especially if you do wind up in court and you have to litigate something, there are a lot of very intricate legal arguments, and you want to have somebody who knows what they're doing. Frankly, I don't want to know, some other area of practice. No. I'm sending that to somebody else who specializes in that area of practice, and it's all that I do. And I think that, the clients that I have appreciate that.
Absolutely. We're going to go to break in just a minute. When we come back, I want to talk about the process of going through divorce, because I would think, especially if a female came into your office, she's a little nervous. What am I going to do financially if I decide to go ahead and file divorce? What happens? So we'll talk about that when we come back.
Okay.
Lewert Law Offices is proud to be the family law expert on the Ask the Expert show. Attorney Tina Lewert is a board-certified specialist in marital and family law. Attorney Lewert is committed to obtaining the best resolution for your divorce or other family law case by consistently providing skilled representation, expert legal advice, and personal attention. Attorney Lewert has developed an excellent reputation for providing effective divorce and family law representation in Boca Raton and the surrounding communities. Lewert Law Offices offers legal advice and representation in a wide range of family law matters, including divorce, child custody, time sharing and visitation, child support, alimony, complex asset distribution, post-judgment modifications, and paternity actions. For expert representation in all aspects of divorce and family law, contact Attorney Tina Lewert today at 561-544-6861 or visit www.lewertlaw.com.
Yeah.
And we're back. There's some things out there you go, how can they say that? So we're here with Attorney Tina Lewert. If you'd like to watch today's show, you can go to www.lewertlaw, L-E-W-A-R-T. E-R-T.
That's okay. Everyone does that.
Why did I want to say A? Lewert. You can go watch the show today, but she's also got a great website. That's what we're sending you to. You can actually watch the show. You can go back and watch today's show and other shows on there, but you got a great website. Whoever did your website did a wonderful job. It's really good. Some really good information on there. So I was just saying that I'm sure some women will come in and they're worried about, okay, if I take the next step, what am I've got kids. What am I going to do financially?
I have a lot of, I'll say this. I have a lot of both genders, both sexes that come in and say that, how are things going to be? And because even if you have, like, from the perspective you're talking about, maybe, for example, a stay-at-home mom who, maybe she had education, maybe she sacrificed education, she didn't, she quit a job that she had or didn't go to school or didn't go to work because she decided this is how we're, the two of them decided together, we're going to get married, we're going to have kids, this is our arrangement, this is how we're going to run things. And then years later, there's a divorce for whatever reason, and she finds herself going, well, I haven't worked in 15 years, 20 years. I've been out of the workforce. I have no skills. I'm not employable. I'm not attractive to employers. I have no education, or I have little education or no relevant education. So I have a lot of people that come in and they're going, what am I going to do? How am I going to be okay? And, depending on, obviously, on the other side, if we're assuming that maybe the husband was the breadwinner, the sole wage earner, or the primary breadwinner, then okay, there's possibly an alimony case. If there are children, there's going to be child support, but a lot of things play into that. For child support, there's a formula. For alimony, to support the spouse, typically the wife. It's going to depend. It's going to depend on what's available, what funds are available. And I've seen some cases where there's a lot of money available. The husband earns a substantial income, and there's more than enough to go around. And he's going to have to, pay some support, maybe for a short period of time, maybe for a long period of time, depending on a lot of things, her age, her employability, and all that. But I've seen cases where there's not a lot of money to go around, and the husband's income isn't a lot. It was just barely getting everybody by, and those are tough. Those are tough because we can only spread around what's available.
In other words, before the divorce, is there means to get the husband to pay before it's finalized?
Yeah, there's something called temporary relief that we ask for: temporary alimony, temporary child support, even temporary attorney's fees. And those are things that are requested during the case, during the proceeding, while the proceeding is going on. You're saying, I don't have the funds to get me through. I don't have the funds, whether it's to pay my own attorney's fees or even to to support myself and pay my household bills and support the children while the case is going on. And this other person does have those funds and the ability to pay. And so you set a hearing on those issues.
What happens now? Let's say the mother is working. There's kids involved. She's going to file for divorce. During that time, she can't afford to take on all the bills. So, in other words, if she's staying in the house, which would be the right thing to do, she keeps the kids. Does the father still have to take care of his obligations, whether it's, no matter what it is, that he still have to pay half?
Depends on a lot of things. Depends
so that's
on the
not
case.
For sure.
Depends on, it depends really sometimes they start with, well, what was going on before? What was the financial arrangement? Who was paying what? And, if she was paying a few bills, but his income was paying for the house and the mortgage and all the basic things, usually I advise people to try to keep the status quo, and it can all be rearranged and probably will be. And if there's payments owed, back to one or the other, something, reimbursements to make it all fair later on, we can do that retroactively. But yeah, it really depends. Every case is different. But yeah, if there's a person, long story short, is if there's a person in need who's without the funds to pay for things that need to be paid for, bills, groceries, children's expenses, daycare, mortgages, things like that, and the other person has the ability to pay, then usually there's a motion and a hearing, or, a mediation and an agreement on those things.
I would think someone's going to be real upset when they get served papers for divorce.
Yeah, it's interesting because even the cases where people come in and they say, "Oh, we don't want to fight. We want to keep this, very amicable," which is good, and I always respect that and try that if that's my client's goal is my goal. But you still have to get the case started. You still have to file your petition for dissolution of marriage. You still have to serve the other party, and just like any case, when you open a case in the state of Florida, it's a lawsuit, and the person who's the respondent will get they'll get the petition and some other documents that go with it, but there's a summons, and the summons says this is a lawsuit, and you have 20 days to respond. And even when you're trying to file what we call it a vanilla petition, very, very, there are children, let's figure out what's in their best interest. There's assets and debts we need to divide. Just very plain, very simple petition. Is still intimidating to people to get that paperwork, and they get it, and they see all these things, and they flip out. And I always advise people, listen, if we're going to serve the other party, even if you've been not in contact with that person, whatever the circumstances may have been, you've been separated for a while, I would tell them, hey, listen,
no surprises.
I hired an attorney. You're going to get this paperwork. It's going to say a lot of things, but please, don't freak out. That doesn't mean that I want to have this World War III battle with you. I still want to resolve it. We'll go to mediation, but this is starting the process. So I always tell people to try to, do a heads up that way, especially if you want to keep it amicable.
Listen, I know this for a fact because I wanted to make it really easy. I was divorced like 20 years ago, kids involved, and I even found out what the formula was. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm going to pay more than that. Basically, kind of keep the attorneys out of it. Mm-hmm. And that was the biggest mistake. She got a lot more money than she would have, but it wasn't that easy. It started off that way.
Yeah.
Because there's always someone who's really upset and wants to make things difficult. So if I would have hired someone like you, it would have turned out in the long run been so much better.
Yeah. Well, and, even in my experience, even when people think that it's simple and it's very, straightforward, it's not necessarily. And so you should at least consult. At least consult with an attorney or two or three and see who you feel comfortable with or get some advice. And even if you have an agreement that's written up, before everybody signs it, and you are trying to keep attorneys out of it, which may or may not be
that's not the
best
right
idea.
Way,
it's not the greatest idea. But, even if you're trying to do that, you should at least have an attorney look at the stuff that you're filing and signing and all that before, because I've just seen it too many times. That something is left out, and then the people have to come back later and hire attorneys and spend more money and more time and more headache and heartache than they would have if they had done it the right way in the first place.
You're going to have a lot more questions than a person would, because I know one of the things I didn't look down the road. Mm-hmm. You can't just look at the current time.
Exactly.
You got to look down the road, and that was probably my biggest failure is because maybe you don't make as much income 10 years down the road. And I'm telling you, it is so important to hire someone like Tina to make sure that you don't make the mistakes, so they can be very costly. And it could cause family. You don't want, there's kids usually involved.
Yeah.
And that's the ones that should be worried about are the kids.
And I see a lot of cases where the parties are getting divorced and the children are, very young, under the age of 5, toddlers, not school age yet. And it's very hard. It's interesting to me because it's very hard for people, mothers and fathers, to think of their child as any age other than the age they are now. Like, it's hard for most parents to think, okay, my child is 2 or 3, and so we're dealing with daycare and this and that right now, and they can't picture that their child will one day be 13 and 15 and have their own life and their own schedule, and then you'll be working around their schedule, and just that things change, and daycare costs go away, but other costs may come into play that you might need to think about and plan for as parents, and even put into your divorce agreement. And it's hard to do, but those are the things that's a good attorney's job, is to be looking forward and thinking of all the what ifs. And those are the things that I give advice to people all the time, and they say, oh, I never thought of that. I never even thought of that. And, so.
What's the biggest cause of divorce today?
Oof,
Is there one thing, or
is there one? I would say the big one is finances, and just a very different two people that maybe have never had a conversation early on in their relationship about their attitudes toward money, finances, debts, assets, saving, spending. Even children, and the financial, forget children by themselves, but
right.
The financial aspects of children. When are we going to have children? Can we afford children? How many children can we afford? How are we going to pay for this? Who's going to watch them? Are we going to both work? Is one of us going to work? And they really never sit down at the beginning and talk about any of those things. Are you a saver or a spender? Are you, how much debt do you have coming into this marriage? People don't talk about that stuff. And then they realize, that they're completely opposite ends of the spectrum in their attitudes towards those things. And it creates a lot of conflict, a lot of arguments, a lot of.
So when are you going to write a book?
Oof, that's a good one.
Yeah, because
in my spare time.
Absolutely right. No, you're absolutely right, because in the economy with the way it is right now, people maybe who never even had
rough, yeah.
financial trouble, and I can see where that would be.
And some people that are in denial of financial trouble. A lot of times you see one person who's like, wait, we can't spend this, or we can't afford this, and the other person is like, oh, but I want it. And they're like, what are you talking about? You were doing fine. Everything, and they don't want to know, or they stick their head in the sand, and they don't want to know they don't want to look at the checkbook, and they don't want to, they just want to, keep living the dream, and times
I
change.
could see we're not sitting down and discussing, because some people might be embarrassed about their financial
also,
situation.
when you're young, you're in love, you're
Right.
planning your wedding, and you're just thinking of other things. And some people are in that. Sorry, I hate to say it, but yeah, the fairy tale world. It's the happy, stuff, and they don't want to think of. You could still be happy, but think of the realities too of just life and starting a family and starting, a relationship together.
This
Life
show
together.
is so easy to do. We normally have, like, I brought in 5-6 pages of notes. I haven't even had to look at my notes today. It's just I try to think of questions that I would have if I'm sitting out in the audience right now, because divorce is scary. I mean, it's. A lot of people have been through a divorce, but a lot of people wish they'd have done things different. And this is why I'm so glad that we have someone like you here, because you don't want to Google for an attorney. Trust me, that's how I got mine. Mine was a friend. I got to tell you something, just because they're a friend, that doesn't mean they're good.
Yeah.
And I have just spoke to so many women who will go, yeah, I'm divorced, but my attorney was horrible, and I just settled. And that was the main word, settled. And it was so sad, because I see these were probably attorneys that was like a factory, just crank him out. They might have had a criminal case the next day, or they might have a bankruptcy case.
Yeah, that's a little scary.
Yeah, and this is something that this is your passion. I mean, you got to have passion to go the extra mile like you did. So, Tina Lewert, our family attorney, got this 30 minutes goes by so fast. Give them your phone number.
Sure. The phone number at the office is 561-544-6861.
And give them your website, because you spell it better than I do.
Everyone does. The website is www.lewertlaw.com, and Lewert is spelled Lewert.
Great. I love having you on.
I love being here.
Thank you so much. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we have our taxation solution show. We'll be right back.
Lewert Law Offices is proud to be the family law expert on the Ask the Expert show. Attorney Tina Lewert is a board-certified specialist in marital and family law. Attorney Lewert is committed to obtaining the best resolution for your divorce or other family law case by consistently providing skilled representation, expert legal advice, and personal attention. Attorney Lewert has developed an excellent reputation for providing effective divorce and family law representation in Boca Raton and the surrounding communities. Lewert Law Offices offers legal advice and representation in a wide range of family law matters, including divorce, child custody, time sharing and visitation, child support, alimony, complex asset distribution, post-judgment modifications, and paternity actions. For expert representation in all aspects of divorce and family law, contact attorney Tina Lewert today at 561-544-68